First things first, how are you?
I am very well, thank you very much.
It's very good to hear. So, before we get into the music you've been making lately, I want to jump back to the beginning. You're from Derry.
Yeah.
What kind of town is that to grow up in terms of music? I know about the undertones, but that's about it. So,
Yeah. I think the undertones are our biggest export, but sometimes that export overshines actually what happens in Derry. Derry's a very culturally focused city. All of my friends are either artists, musicians, actors, writers. They do a lot of work in the UK, but prefer to stay in Derry as a home. All the nightlife, it's a very positive place to live, especially if you are a musician. We tend to help each other. There's no sense of competitiveness or anything in Derry. It's about making the best that you can make and helping each other out.
and for you as a young artist, kind of, well, you started even younger, but what was it like, kind of being thrown in there at the age of, what was it, 12?
12, yeah, when I was, because I started when I was 10,
Right.
and then by about 12 I was starting to get my confidence together, and they started sneaking me in the back doors of pubs. They play little like half-hour acoustic sets here and there, and everyone just makes you feel really comfortable straight away. It is that support network that's there. You don't feel like you're going out there to be judged. You do feel like when you're going there, people are there to enjoy music. People are there to, and when people give you advice, they're giving you advice for the right reasons, and they want you to do well and they want to help you. And I think that whole network around it really sort of helped me tremendously.
Right. So, what was one of the best pieces of advice that you were giving, as you started?
I think just to play as much as possible. That sort of being pushed to sort of say, look, it's okay, do what you want to do. Don't pay attention to what's going on the radio. Don't pay attention to scenes or anything. Just find what you want to do and pour yourself into it. And if you're having fun, then you know you're doing the right thing. Once it becomes frustrating, once it becomes almost like a job that you might hate, you're doing something wrong or you're focusing on the wrong things.
And so, for you, when did you find kind of what you wanted to do? Was it that early already? Was it even before, maybe, or are you still trying to?
It's strange to think about, because I think as an artist, sometimes you never feel like you're done. You're always searching. It's always that next step or what's going to come next. There's so many new sounds and so many new things. Like when you pick up a new guitar, you just look at it and you think, wow, there must be like at least another 10 songs just hidden in this piece of wood. So it's just constantly trying to discover what avenues you can go down. Because you discover one thing and that's fine and you get into it and you enjoy yourself. But I get very bored very quickly. So I find myself experimenting probably more than I should.
Okay. Well, this is a little bit of a side story then, but one of, I think, the ways you try to challenge yourself is through art, visual art and drawing.
Yeah.
So when did that become kind of an element in what you do?
I always doodled.
Okay.
And I would just sit and I would doodle away. But I literally only started drawing properly around Christmas time.
Okay.
Someone bought me like a set and they were like, look, we've seen you're interested on it. Maybe have a go. And then I sat down and actually focused on doing it. And I'm starting to do portrait drawings and trying to get into photorealism and things. And it is the best hobby I've ever started in my life.
Because, well, it's amazing that you only started a couple weeks ago or a couple months ago, because they're quite good.
Thank you.
But also, how does that kind of, having that extra creative expression, how does that influence kind of the music side of things?
It can give your brain a break. So it can. Sometimes when you're writing so much, you're chasing some goal that you'll never reach anyway. Nothing's ever finished. It's abandoned at the right time. So for me, it does that. The other thing as well is the way you practice any skill, be it music, be it art, be it becoming a photographer or even anything academic, there's a way to learn. And if you learn how to learn, then you'll find that you'll get to where you want to go pretty much with a lot less stress.
So again, it has to become kind of the learning process has to become something that you enjoy and not.
I love it. I love it. Well, like when you first sit down and you start to draw, it's like 3 hours just disappear, and you feel like you've been there for 15 minutes. And then the other thing is as well, much like a song or photography or something, you've got a thing. You've created a thing that didn't exist before, and I think that's a really nice part of life, that you can just bring things into the world that don't really exist, that existed in your head before.
That's an interesting thought, because what, in essence, started you off with songwriting then? What was it about songwriting, but about getting words onto paper and kind of getting it out that interested you?
It was always a natural thing in my home. Music was a huge thing, as it is for most people. Derry might not be the best place for opportunity. So it was seen as just a feasible career in my house to become a musician as it was to become a doctor or a lawyer. I was always in front of live videos of like Bruce Springsteen and David Bowie and stuff. And it was just a natural part of life. So it seemed to me that, okay, this is what these people do for a job. So obviously it's a thing. And I started writing kind of around that 11, 12 mark. And it just became a natural part of practicing guitar, and I'd try and apply what I practiced to what I was writing. And it just sort of became part of life. Became really natural. Decided to leave school a little bit early and go and study music instead independently. My parents were really, really supportive. And then from that then I just found myself in the band scene, and that just became my life.
When did you write a song that you thought, okay, now I've got something? Like kind of what you mentioned, you have to stop at the right point. When did you write that song that you thought, okay, now I'm on the right track here?
I'm not even sure if I ever do.
Okay.
I think I take it as far as I possibly can. I tend to try and, when I'm at home anyway, I try to write a song a day.
Okay.
And get it fully recorded. I would start at 10 a.m. and I give myself to 4 p.m. and I'm like, right, you have to get this done by then, because you become less precious about what you're creating. I think as soon as you start treating them like children or something that people talk about their songs, you're going to put yourself in a really bad mental state. I think you can drive yourself a little bit crazy like that. There's always a million ideas, so there is. And as a musician or any types of art or any type of creativity, your job's to be open to the ideas. You don't have to do anything else apart from that. So I think just writing all the time and keeping yourself exercised and keeping yourself happy in that space is what leads to better art.
Well, that's an interesting thought, because I've spoken to songwriters on both sides. So the ones that wait for divine intervention or something, and then it just floats down.
Yeah.
But also the ones that make it almost like a 9 to 5 and just work at it every single day. So what have you found, let's say in the last year of sitting down every day to write a song, what have you found how that helped you creatively?
I think I lose my sense of fear. Fear is a really, really good tool, so it is, and there's no better way to invoke that than going, look, you've got 6 hours, and whatever you create is what you are today, and you have to accept that. And once you accept that, then you can start moving on, and you don't get hung up. Like, divine inspiration is okay, but you have to be around for divine inspiration. So if I'm not there, and I'm, off at a beach somewhere, not that I go to the beach very often, but if I'm sitting at home doing nothing, then I'm not there when that inspiration arrives. But if I'm sitting down at my writing table, if I'm in front of the studio all the time, then I'm open there and I'm ready for inspiration to come on.
And when you write, well, you like say, I don't know when you started writing a song a day, but did you know that, well, when the first couple of singles started taking some notice and then getting some traction, did you kind of feel it out? Did you kind of feel that coming up? Did you know that these songs were a bit different than others?
No, the thing that happened was I literally stopped caring about what other people thought. And as soon as that happened, everything started to fall in place. I started getting more gigs. I started getting interest from the industry and things like that. And it was literally just shedding that ego feel about your music and actually just being there to create. People worry about, oh, what's this sound going to be like, and does this song match this song? The defining thread through all artists' music is the artists themselves. I could tell you, like, I could write 5 stories and you would know that I was telling you those 5 stories, no matter if one was a horror, one was a romance, etc. And I think that applies to music as well, that you're the defining thread, and not to be afraid of what inspires you, because that's what it's about.
And then this goes back to what you mentioned earlier in terms of kind of experimenting and then going off in different direction and trying things out.
Totally, because you don't know what you're going to discover. So you don't. The art, like my favorite artists, have a lot of change throughout their career, and I think it's that thing. I find it really attractive in an artist, that bravery. To just be a little bit scared and just be in sort of uncharted waters, and you just don't know what's going to arrive. The last thing I'd hate to do is to be comfortable, because once you're comfortable, then you're bored.
So how do you keep that excitement going for yourself? Is it just by getting new equipment, so kind of listening to different types of music and venturing in that way?
Yeah, well, equipment, music. Like, the best equipment in the world's not going to really do anything. Some of my best stuff I've wrote on a guitar that I got for Christmas when I was like 13. I think hanging out with other musicians is really good too, because you become so insular and so cut off from the world when you're creating, that it's hard to remember that there's thousands of people out there doing the same thing, and you can share your experience and you don't feel so insecure about what you're doing, and when you talk you can share about things, and it does give you more inspiration. So it does. I think working with other people or just hanging out and talking with other people is the best way to sort of feed your life. You can't really write about life unless you're living.
So, well, we'll get to a couple of songs in more depth in a second, but kind of that's an important element, I think, to be able to live life, because if you're just sitting there trying to write, then you're not experiencing anything. The songs become a bit stale, I suppose. So what's your topics of interest, or what you write about are very diverse. So if we go to how you write songs, and it's based on every day, what grasps your attention? Can it be current? Let's take an example. So, Fall to Earth. How does a song like that come to be? Is that by watching the news and?
Yeah, that was a very media-inspired song. Fall to Earth's very much about the way we're lied to, and not only like, because some people will just attack the media. Human beings act like that. That's why the media is like that. It's a human invention. So seeing how not only things that are so big like the media or social media or the news work, but also how that ties through to people as well, because people can be just as dangerous as the media can. And it's that human element. It's our experience. It's the only thing that we've got here. Your whole life is just what your brain processes, and that voice in your head and how it translates that to you. That's your whole experience in life, from the day you're born to the day you die. And how that works and how that translates and how things within your head get to the outside world and how things from the outside world get into your head. That translation of things is awesome. So it is, and I think it's something that should be really discovered and really analysed as much as possible.
But I think that's interesting, because there's a line from a different song that I wrote down, from another lesson, which kind of, I suppose it ties into this, what you just mentioned. It all depends on how you live. You choose to love, you choose to give. So there is some self-agency or whatever within that kind of process of getting all the information in and then kind of carrying out your life.
Totally. I think it was a really important thing to try and get across, that you process the world, and also you can choose how you're going to process that world. You can choose to be angry, you can choose to be bitter, or you can choose to let that go and see things for how they actually are. Sometimes we get in our own way so much that we ruin opportunities for ourselves. And if we tend to shed that and get back from that, it becomes a lot easier.
Should we just keep going? Or?
Yeah, we'll be alright, don't tell him.
Yeah, that would be hard. No, but that's one thing I liked a lot about Another Lesson, where it's yeah, like you say, that we have a say in it. There's a certain sense of, maybe it's getting too philosophical now, but there is a sense of free will in it.
Yeah.
Which I found interesting. So with that said, then, how do you see yourself as an artist, kind of moving? Where do you want to go? And if we have that agency, if we have that, what type of career would you like?
I'm not sure. I think just if I keep trying to discover the next stage, it's really hard to put it into words about where you want to go. I definitely want to explore a wider range of sounds and a wider range of emotions, but I think it is that human interaction and how we interact with each other, and I want to go down that more and more and more. It's such a wide, strange world. Every day is brand new, and you do learn something from every single person you meet. So I don't see that it could ever get stagnant. I can only see it just getting richer. No matter what avenue I end up in, no matter where I go down, I'm always trying to learn, and I hope that I've got the wherewithal to pay attention to that.
Well, yeah, because I just met you, but what strikes me is that like you're not motivated by any form of fame or any form of kind of material wealth or whatever. But so and in terms of songwriting, then you also alluded to it, because I always equate it to kind of a quest to find the perfect song, and a kind of elusive perfect song.
Yeah.
Do you think you've gotten close to what you had in your mind?
I don't know. Sometimes you feel like you're trying to find an answer to a question that doesn't exist. You are literally walking through the dark and guessing what you've got in your hand, and you can't see it. You can't describe it to anyone else, but you know it's there. So it's just a strange, strange world. It's a strange universe in creativity because it's not so tangible. But when you play 4 bars, everyone knows exactly what you're talking about, even though you can't be literal about it. Sound is just literally frequency waves, but somehow this emotion and this feeling and this grandiose image appears in our head out of nothing more than air moving back and forward.
And then, like tonight, you go on stage and you can kind of convey that, or that energy, or whatever that is. You can exchange it with the audience. So what is that element like for you? Because we've talked about kind of the creative aspect of it. What is the performance aspect for you? What do you get out of the performance?
It helps me realize I'm not crazy. When you see that connection with people, you go, "Oh, right, cool. We are really, although we're all vastly different, we're super, super, super similar." And it is that connection, and it's that you can just feel this energy, and it's so strange. Like when I look at gig pictures or gig videos, it doesn't tend to come across as much as actually just being in that room, and that moment that just appears and disappears straight away. It just burns bright and then just fades away into nothing. And I think that's a beautiful thing that maybe recorded music doesn't capture so much. I love playing live. I've played live like since I was like 12. And it's been such a huge part of my life. And I think that's where music exists. Do you know, when there was like, a scientist was saying we first discovered singing when we were apes, because gorillas hum when they eat, they make each other feel secure. So coming from that point, it's always been that live exchange with people, and it's always been a social element. And I think we tend to get so obsessed with these artists who fiddle away in wee small rooms in the dark, and it's not really what it's all about. That's one element of it, yes, but it's the sharing and the experience and the stories and the emotions that we all share. I think that's the most important bit, and I think live just brings that and does give it life.
The certain immediacy of it, kind of.
Yeah, it's that thing, like even if I play a wrong note, it's gone. It's done, and it was there, and it was real, and it happened, and that's a thing, and that's how life works. So it's a really condensed part of life, condensed down to maybe an hour.
Right. Finally then, can I assume that you're working on your debut record now?
Yeah, I am.
So how far along are you?
I'm almost finished. Okay. I think I've got space for maybe 1 or 2 more trips to the studio. But most of it is coming together quite nicely, and I'm starting to feel a bit more comfortable with what I've got now. So I do. I'm planning to do probably maybe 1 or 2 more singles before then. But yeah, I'm super excited.
You say you're starting to feel more comfortable. How come you weren't very?
I think it's just the amount of material.
Okay.
Because I write so much, it's very hard to choose which one. But again, that's why live works as well, because you can test things. You can go, is this just one of my ideas, or is this an actual song? And then after a while, then you start to sit with it and you go, right, this feels like a thing. They all feel related to each other. You can coin like a phase of your life, and I think that's what an album should really be about. It's not about getting songs that sound similar or have like everything on this has a mellotron. It's more about getting and capturing those phases of your life, because once your brain shifts and once you change into a different person. So I don't think it would make sense to have that feeling in the middle of an album. I think you should coin one side of your life, put that to bed, and then move on to the next stage.
So I assume the debut album, will that be kind of the moment from when you were 10 up till now, or is it more condensed?
I think it's more condensed. I think it would probably be kind of the last maybe 2 to 3 years of life. And I kind of want to keep that vibe going. So do I want to just try and make it like a documentation of my thoughts and how I'm getting on. Hopefully then people might actually be able to see some sort of journey through it.
And last question then, what has this journey been for you? Because I don't know, well, you released a couple of songs and you were playing live, but as kind of the first song started getting airplay and stuff, did that change a lot for you?
It made it more realistic. Sometimes, and even now, when I hear things on the radio, I feel like I'm getting away with it. I feel like I'm going to get found out someday. Talking to other artists, like everyone kind of gets that feeling. When it just started, it kind of spurs you on. They do more and they work harder and they put your best self forward all the time. And it reminds you not to get distracted by things like the radio. That's the answer to the equation. You have to work on the equation. What happens after that really has nothing to do with me. I can only do my best, and once it's in the world, it's how the world reacts. And if I pay less attention to that and more attention to my actual job, which is creating, I think I'll be okay.
Very last thing then, do you have an album title yet?
No, I do
Fair
not.
enough.
I've already warned everyone I'm going to name it kind of like the week before.
Fair enough. All right, Glenn, thank you very much for your time.
Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you.